Pick up your gear and open your chests. Throw on your armor and head out on a quest. Hey, hey, it's a brand new day. On the Sword Coast, your allies will help with blazing bows and magic as well. Hey, hey, heroes on their way, fighting forever against overwhelming odds, fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the forgotten realms, idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, get you on a man. Idle champions, you will set again. Idle champions. From Waterdeep to Icewind Dale, head out to show, or Shadowfell, hey, hey. Together we stay. Walk to the monsters, walk to the boss, walk to the right, it's never a loss, hey, hey. Bad guys to slay, fighting forever against overwhelming odds, fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the forgotten realms, idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, get you on a dance. Idle champions, you will set again. Idle champions, idle champions, idle champions, idle champions.
Oh, hey, that's my cue. And we're okay. Captions? Are you gonna? I am talking captions. Yeah, there we go. Boy, technical difficulties this morning. My lights didn't want to work. The captions had to be rebooted. Yay! But we're here. It's Saturday morning. Well, at least at the moment, for me, because it just depends on where you are in the world. But hey, it's time for another Gaarawarr's Guide, the tutorial show. And joining me, grabbing everything from chat and keeping an eye on all the things, and Gabe. Gabe is here, folks. Gabe's going to grab your questions out of chat, as long as you put question : in front of them, because this is partially a Q&A show. The first half of this show, so the first hour or so, probably a little more than an hour, because we got a lot to talk about, are going to be... I just realized these two don't need to be on here. Are going to be... just see, I lost my whole thing. First hour or so, the show is going to be me talking on the topic, and the second hour is going to be me answering questions. Okay. Yeah. Today's topic, if you don't know, Dragondown Flex Champions. Dragondown Flex Champions. And now, I know you're like, but Gaarawarr, a lot of us already did the whole event. What are you talking about? I mean, I did it all too. I did it all too. But we are going to talk about Flex Champions today. I promise. That's the thing. In fact, if I do this... Come on. There we go. Now we go to an unfinished event. Well, it's sort of finished. I have flexed some champions. There's still a supporter slot down here. But this is our Dragondown, the wrapping up the Dragondown. So if you've still got a champion that maybe you're not sure if you want to flex, or maybe you flex some champions, and you aren't exactly sure how to use them, we're going to talk about them all today. So obviously Duke, Ravengard, and Esmeralda were the featured champions. We talked about them a couple weeks ago when the event started. Now we're going to talk about champions like BBEG, Dungeon Master, Merilwen, Binwin, Korth, Nova, Selise, and Shaka. Nova, Selise, and Shaka. And we're going to have to hop back over to the other screen to do that, but let's talk about how you flex a champion. Like I just did, you've probably figured it out by now if you're this far into the event, but if you've just joined us, welcome to Idle Champions. We're happy to have you here. If you click on one of these slots, that's like this first one is free. These next two take a time gate piece to unlock the champion, and this next one you have to buy an event boon, like one of these offers over here on the right for cash, and it's got like, it says a +1 event boon, right? That would unlock this, basically. It's why it's called a supporter slot, because you've supported the game and it's continuing development. And when you click on them, a list pops up, and that list will include these champions as well as these three, because you have your choice of whichever ones you want. So you can kind of customize your progress and pick up champions that are going to help you progress, or, you know, and if you're brand new, it's help you progress towards like split the party, which is great. It takes 2 champions in every bench seat. But we're going to want to talk about these. When you come over to this, you can see, hey, like this one, like if the normal one would be free, and if you did the supporter slot, it would be free. Otherwise, over here in cost, it would say 3 time gate pieces. You can choose the champion. You can grab some more details about the champion. Like you can see the achievements you'd be working for. You can see their item slots. You can see what tier you've progressed through. If it's your brand new one, it's it. There's also some basic abilities listed off to the side, but there's not. It's not a whole lot. I'll be honest. We got a little information you can pass through. Look at this. See all these little upgrades, specializations choice. You've got some information that you can make a decision on. And once you choose them, well, then you have to do their content. But we talked about that a couple weeks ago. You can find that over there. Today we're just going to talk about them. So let's hop back over to the game where I have them all unlocked and can talk about them. Who do we want to start with first? I think we're going to start with Binwin. Bin it to win it. We're going to talk about Binwin Bronze Bottom. Excuse me. Blah, 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 blah. Binwin Bronze Bottom. Binwin is a dwarf. He's the champion. He's maybe not the greatest champion on Idle Champions. He was OP when he came out. And he got nerfed pretty hard, and then they reworked him, trying to find a better place for him, and he's kind of a product of his time. He could use another rework at some point, because, dwarf. We need good, solid dwarves in the game, folks. Male mountain dwarf, fighter barbarian, so dual class, lawful good, DPS, no affiliation, as this was post-Ac Inc., and while he was kind of his own thing out with Binwin's minions, right? His basic attack, twin axes to the back. Binwin attacks the frontmost enemy with his twin axes, Rook and Ruin. His ultimate attack is barrel roll, and it's hilarious. Binwin hops under a sturdy wooden barrel and rides towards a single enemy, dealing damage along the way. So it is a line AoE. When he reaches the target enemy, the barrel explodes, dealing AoE damage and slowing all affected enemies. Here we go. Look at that balancing act. Boom. Pretty fun. Pretty fun. Alright. Basic attack. Binwin's real straightforward. Remember, DPS roll means all he's doing is hitting things. So, extra attacks. Binwin gains extra attacks when champions adjacent to him do a certain number of attacks before Binwin's next attack. Now, Binwin does have a 6-second cooldown, but, it's hard to get a lot of people going faster than Binwin. When the people, this is kind of the problem with Binwin in the current meta, when the people that can make you go faster also have buffs you want, it's a little rough. A little rough in the current situation. So each extra attack does 25% more damage, stacking multiplicatively, which is the good way. I mean, He had a neat little kit here. It's just hard to pull off. Once upon a time, there was a champion ability off of Point that would slow attacks down, and so you'd slow Binwin with Point, and then let everybody else attack fast, and you could build up some extra attacks, and it was okay. But the problem then is you have your primary DPS only attacking like once every now and then, and it was a little rough. A little rough. Still is. Extra damage. Binwin gains extra damage when champions adjacent to him kill enemies before Binwin's next attack. Wait, what? Right, that should be your question. Wait, what? This is kind of why Binwin fell off. They were at a time period where they were experimenting with the idea of maybe, just maybe, having a champion that was kind of like a secondary DPS champion instead of building her whole formation around just one. And so that meant you would pump like damage into another DPS champion that was next to Binwin. And then Binwin would be like, "Oh, you can do that? Well, I can do that too." And then would, try to do more damage. It didn't really work. Didn't really work that well. Crash and Smash. This is kind of the main functional part of his kit. Binwin deals 2 hits to enemies with hit and armor-based health. Great idea, right? Because, yeah, why not? Why not? Right? Have somebody that can chew through armor just on their own? Yeah. And that was it. The specialization choice. Well, there might be some more things. I can't remember. He's got it's a really straightforward kit for it. More minions versus antisocial dwarfing. More minions, extra attacks and extra damage also fire for champions 2 slots away from Binwin. But again, it's like the extra attacks are the ones that come in handy. The extra damage, not so much. Antisocial dwarfing, extra attacks and extra damage only fire for champions not adjacent to Binwin. And this was very formation dependent, right? Like to what you would pick here. And really you were targeting extra attacks because the extra damage just wasn't happening, right? And you'll note I did flex. I mean, I'm sitting here saying I'm not the greatest. I did flex Binwin this year on my main account. Someone had to. Tallest in Faerun increases Binwin's damage by 200% for every dwarf, kobold, halfling, gnome, or goblin in the formation. Now, I don't remember. It's a post stack. It does stack multiplicatively, but the bonus is post stack. So he's got a kit where, like, there maybe with a tweak or two, you could probably make him do some serious damage. Like if this was pre-stacked. There's now a lot of these champions in the game. Whereas back then there wasn't a whole lot. So there's ways they could adjust Binwin in the future. Lingering damage for every hit that Binwin does that doesn't kill an enemy. 25% of his extra damage bonus from that attack is preserved for his next attack, but it caps at 100%. Right? So there's like some number tweaks here for Binwin that could be interesting, and then who knows. But right now, Binwin's just kind of straightforward. He's not super amazing, but but he's a dwarf, and if you just want to run an all dwarf formation and you've got more than enough power to clear things, Binwin's your boy. Binwin's your boy. Let's talk about... Who do we want to talk about next? Korth. Korth is our lizard folk samurai. You heard that right, folks. Lizard folk samurai. Male lizard folk samurai. Oh, he's technically fighter. Neutral evil. Healing support debuff. Healing support debuff. No affiliation. This is not his main. This is his normal skin, but I've got him in a Vecna cultist outfit. Main attack is Samurai Slice. Korth charges out and attacks the nearest non-marked enemy with his samurai sword. What does that mean? What's a non-marked enemy? We're gonna get to that. That's part of his kit. It's part of his kit. Rapid Training is his first ability. Korth increases the damage of all champions with a dex score of 16 or higher. That's a big bar to reach, folks, but that's his thing. Korth was part of a recent, part of one of the seasons, and it was the season of Dex. They were trying to bring Dexy back. there's some high dex champions out there that benefit from this. Also reduces their normal attack cooldown by half a second, so he makes them attack faster and gives them a bunch of damage. Lizard folk tactics. Enemies' Korth attacks become marked until they are defeated. There you go. And remember, he attacks the nearest non-marked enemy. So he marks an enemy and he moves on. Fantastic. I love this because it isn't just like, hey, attacks the nearest enemy, which technically is what this does. It's the nearest non-mark. So he can spread that mark all over. So the more he's attacking, the more he's spreading his mark everywhere. And marked enemies take more damage from all attacks. All attacks. Fighting Spirit. This was an answer on the recent Idle Answers Q&A quiz show. Man, that was rough. When they did the champion abilities, it was like the roughest topic. Whenever a champion attacks any enemy that is marked, they gain a temporary hit points. Now, the amount varies for a lot of reasons, so just keep that in mind. It does scale. This effect is increased by 100% on champions with the tanking role, so it's going to double that shield on tanks, but it's going to shield anyone that hits one of those marked enemies. This is a great survivability feature. It's a great way to get shields around your party. Because again, later on, there are just like you've seen in this event, there are enemies that'll just AoE your entire party, so those shields can come in handy. This effect can only occur for each champion once every 7.5 seconds, so there is kind of a per champion cooldown on that. Then there's calculated. Korth sums up the total dexterity scores of all champions in the formation. That's right, he does math in the middle of combat. And increases the effect of rapid training by 7.5% for each point, stacking multiplicatively. Look, stacking multiplicatively is a good way. Now, that is a lot of math. This does mean your whole party, he wants your whole party to be high dex, if possible. The higher the dex, the better the bonus. You can check the math over here. Right now we got 87 points. It's giving us an EO6 bonus. But I don't even have a full formation, and I haven't built it around being high dex. So, pretty interesting thing there. And now his spec choices. Samurai training. Behind, in front, or beside. This is a neat little bonus feature for you. It's a way to help more of your party be dexterous, right? He's lending a bit of his training. So Korth increases the base dexterity scores of the champions in the 2 slots, either behind, in front, or beside, right? To 16 if they weren't already 16 or higher. Folks, that dexterity could be a 3. And you sit them in the position that you need them based off, because this is allowing you to adapt Korth to the formation layout. You put them next to Korth wherever they need to be based off the spec you choose. They could go from a 3 to a 16. It's huge. I mean, I don't think there's a 3 in the game, but just for explanation's sake, they would take it all the way to 16. So even if you have some low dex, like if you're building a high dex formation, there's a couple low dex people you really want in that formation because they're mega buffers, or maybe they're a mega DPS and all your supports are high dex, right? You put them wherever they need to be based off this spec choice, and suddenly they're 16 too. And they're qualifying for his buff, remember, because his buff is 16 or higher. His buff is 16 or higher. I'm just going to pick one because it doesn't really matter for this formation. There aren't a lot of champions in the game that raise other champions' stats. So this is a pretty neat feature for it. All right, strength before death. Whenever any champion is about to be killed, and this ability is available, Korth prevents the death. The champion stays at 1 HP, gains the Fighting Spirit shield, and is invulnerable for 5 seconds. Then Korth immediately makes an ultimate attack against the enemy that tried to kill the champion. This ability has up to 3 charges and regenerates 1 charge every minute. Okay, so kind of a big deal, right? Also, I want to point out, look at this shield. Look at this shield. This shield's scaled. It's scaled all the way up a cap for me on this account. It's a 1 EO5. That's not bad. On a squishy, it's fantastic. You can't even see his health. Alright, so Strength Before Death, basically death prevention measure, and then fires off an ultimate. And here's the ultimate. Hungry Jaws. Korth leaps to the nearest enemy and ferociously bites them, causing massive damage and a bleed for 5 times the base damage over 5 seconds. Now remember, the base damage is going to be based off your base ultimate damage, right? Your bud. So 5x your bud over 5 seconds. Pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. And finally, group tactics. Korth tracks the highest number of enemies that he has simultaneously marked in the current area. Remember, he's going to hit a non-marked enemy over and over and over, but it says simultaneously. So this is an ability. It comes later in the upgrade tree because it's for deeper into your pushes when there's enemies that are staying alive even after he's marked them. So tracks the highest number of enemies that is simultaneously marked in the current area and increases the damage bonus of rapid training by 20% for each of those enemies, stacking multiplicatively. That's the good way. So, the harder it is for you to kill enemies, the more he's going to buff you so that you can kill those enemies. But it's on the current area. It's on the current area. So, like, right now, group tactics is 0 because we're killing everything instantly. Right? So got to keep that in mind. All right. That's Korth. Korth's pretty cool. I haven't gone over. I didn't go over items for Binwin. I apologize, folks. Itemization for Binwin. Para damage, self-damage items. We've got extra damage. We got Taliesin Faerun. We got his ultimate attack and his ultimate cooldown. Yes, it's a duck in armor. Love it. Feats are real straightforward. Look at this. He's got 6 because, like I said, he's been around a while. He was made back when there were only 2 feat slots. Once upon a time, there were no feat slots. But then we had 2 feat slots, and now we have 4. Self-damage, Taliesin Faerun, and then Charisma. I don't remember why the charisma is there, honestly, because he's already got a pretty high charisma. It probably qualifies him for a variant or somebody's ability. This was a long time ago, folks. All right, Korth. Korth is great itemization, truly. Rapid training, lizard folk tactics, fighting spirit, calculated. Items for 4 separate abilities. Then his ultimate attack, because remember that fires off one of the abilities, and then cooling down the ultimate attack. Feat-wise, damage all champions, rapid training. Here's increase the attack cooldown reduction of effect of rapid training, so you can make people attack even faster if you want. Lizard folk tactics, fighting spirit. That's the temp HP shield if you want to make it bigger. Calculated group tactics. He's got a wisdom +1. I believe that qualifies him for Narak. He's got a charisma +1. That qualifies him for Patron Zerial. And then he can make himself attack faster, which, again, he's marking enemies and ramping your damage based up on that later on in a run, so that's a good idea. Then he has a really special one down here called Yaido. Increases the base dexterity score buff provided by Samurai Training by 1. Now remember, Samurai Training brings you up to 16. This means he'll take you to 17. And remember, he has a buff based off total score of dexterity, so he's basically adding 2 to that buff. As long as he's hitting people that were below that anyway, he's adding 2 above bringing them up to 16. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. These were season locked feats. They've now left their exclusivity period, so these can now both be picked up. I'm gonna have to do that. Because that's a good feat. Because that's a good feat. All right. Now we're going to do a little swippy swappy. I know we've got some other champions here to talk about, but there's champions in these slots that we also have to talk about. So we're just going to take this time to talk about Merilwen. Merilwen also in slot 2. Merilwen? Meryl now. That's, yes. Merilwen just turned into a kitty with distracting cuteness. Merilwen does not attack well in cat form. Thanks, Merilwen. I needed to talk about your basic attack, though. And the changing an area doesn't help, does it? It doesn't. I remember this. Yeah. All right. Well, she's distracting with her cuteness, folks. Merilwen is a female wood elf druid, neutral alignment. So that is neutral for those of you who are wondering. That is neutral on both axes. Support and Goldfind champion, and she's a fantastic Goldfind champion. Member of the Ox Venturers Guild, and that is a full affiliation currently, I believe. Corazon, Dob, Egbert, Merilwen, Prudence, and Rust. They're all available in Idle Champions. First ability is a neutral party. Oh, you know what? No, we're going to come back here. Look, Merilwen, if you look up here, her base attack is actually magical. And I know, you're like, but, well, she was holding a bow. I swear, she was holding a bow. Look, see, she's got a bow, but she actually attacks with magic. So just keep that in mind. I mean, one of the reminders that just because someone visually looks one way in this game doesn't mean that they are what they look like. Someone can look like a tank and not be one. Someone cannot look like a tank and be one. Okay. Neutral party. Merilwen increases the damage of all neutral champions in the formation. Neutral on the good and evil axis. So if you were up here and it said lawful neutral, that's the kind. As long as you don't see good or evil in this alignment thing, then that's who she buffs. So, like, we come over here, neutral good. That ain't it. You see good. I mean, there might be a neutral there, but you see good. She wouldn't buff them. Chaotic good. Nope. Lawful neutral. There we go. She buffs Selise. Right? The neutral has to be on the right-hand side for Merilwen. Liquidity. This is the Goldfind feature, and I know it doesn't sound like a lot right here, but trust me, it's a big deal. Merilwen increases Goldfind by 100% for each Ox Venturers Guild champion in the formation, stacking multiplicatively. So the more Ox Venturers there are, the more gold she's going to give, and it stacks multiplicatively. But just with herself, it's a good chunk of gold. Now, I know this says 100%, but it gets upgrades. As you can see over here, I mean, we are not even to her soft cap yet, and I'm already in EO5 gold because of her itemization. Right? She's got an item and feats for that. So it's a solid. It isn't just 100%. It's a solid buff. I love her in Dirty Gold Farms. That's dirty with 2 R's. Wild shape. This is what we're doing. This is what happened. I upgraded her to her wild shape, and now we're not going to see her again. At the start of each non-boss area, Merilwen takes on the form of a wild cat. She no longer makes normal attacks, but the attack speed cooldown of every adjacent champion is reduced by half a second. So everyone else around her attacks faster. If there are ever 15 or more enemies on the screen, Merilwen transforms back to her normal form and starts attacking until the party switches areas. And then you do it all again. Okay. So attack speed bonus when things are dying quickly. So you can basically kind of clear the area a little faster, maybe. Like the small, tiny speed effect, but not really. I mean, we don't really call that a speed effect. But it does help you get through an area a little quicker if you're killing with champion damage. There's Merilwen. There he is. Poison spray. Merilwen attacks a random enemy with a magical spray of poison. See? We see her eventually. Punishing puns. Woman after my own heart. While in her elf form, Merilwen boosts, except she's an elf. Merilwen boosts a neutral party for each enemy on the screen, stacking additively. So not a multiplicative thing, or else she'd be a beast. But yeah. So a good amount. Obviously, it varies based off a lot of things, the amount. But yeah. So again, the most numbers of enemies you can have on a screen at once is 100. So it's a fun ability, but it's not OP. All right, specializations. You can stink like a skunk. She can treasure her friends, or she can be Merilwen. Stink like skunk. Merilwen's normal attack makes enemies hit by it stink like a skunk, taking 2.5 seconds of bud damage every second for 5 seconds. This is amazing. I know you're like, what? But look, anytime you can give a support champion bud damage on their attacks, yeah. And that's what this does. This gives a bud dot, puts a bud dot on whatever she attacks. Now, bud is your base ultimate damage. That's effectively your DPS of your highest member in your party. So you're giving her 2.5 seconds of bud as a dot, but it triggers over 5 seconds. So 2.5 seconds, 2.5 seconds, 2.5 seconds. 5 times. That's great. That's great. If your bud is high enough, this can chunk through armor. Even at its base, even at a small amount, it'll take off hit-based, segments. So yeah, fantastic for helping to get through. Anytime you see this, it's fantastic for helping to get through armored enemies, as long as your bud is high enough. As long as your bud is high enough. Treasures her friends. This one's obviously wall of text here. This is a gold find feature. Merilwen gains an encouragement stack each second that an enemy is not defeated. So the longer it takes you to kill something, like on a boss level, the more encouragement stacks you get. Okay. So this caps at 300 stacks. So 300 seconds, 5 minutes. For each encouragement stack, the gold find of liquidity is increased by 100%, stacking additively. When an enemy is defeated or the party changes areas, the stacks are reset to 0. So what this is like the harder it is to defeat this enemy, the more you're going to earn from it. Okay. So when you do beat it, jackpot. All the gold. Okay. This is very specifically, it helps, in deeper pushes. If it's taking a while to kill things, you're just going to get more gold. But it is a great feature if you're still using a Shaka farming. That's a thing which is slowly, I think, fading out. Some people still use it at super high end, though. Like it's like super late game. It is still like the most optimal way to get gold on a run. And so this would still come in very handy then. Merilwen, Merilwen's wild shape attack speed cooldown reduction, that's a whole lot to say, is increased by 1 second and persists when she is in her elf form. So like right now, she's giving a half a second attack speed boost, or she was, while she was in the cat form, to everyone around her. And if you choose Merilwen, it goes to 1.5 seconds, and it's forever, regardless of what form she's in. So if you just want attack speed, Merilwen. Alright. Merilwen. Meow. Alright, I'm gonna go stink like skunk, because why not? Because why not? Alright. So just the ultimate? Yeah. Alright, let's talk about the ultimate. The ultimate is called Merilwen's Meat Grinder. And it's as deadly as it sounds. Stone spikes come out of the ground with a 30-second duration. 30 seconds is a while to have an effect on the screen. Enemies take massive damage over time while in the area. This is what it looks like. Now, none of these enemies are going to walk into this, clearly, because we're killing them right away. But anyone in that, just constant damage. Constant damage. You get to 30 seconds of constant damage. Again, this is fantastic for armored enemies. Like it's just going to 30 seconds of damage, right? As long as your bud's high enough. It's pretty great. Itemized damage all champions, a neutral party, liquidity. That's great because you can boost her already great gold find even higher. Punishing puns, ultimate attack damage, and ultimate cooldown. Damage of all champions feats. We've got additively increasing the base attack cooldown reduction from the wild shape. So along with the spec, you could take it to a 2-second reduction because this adds a half a second. It starts at a half a second. Yeah. Lots of attack speed reduction on Merilwen if you want it. A neutral party liquidity for the gold fine. There's even a really big 80% one, and we love those. Punishing puns. Charisma 2. Again, that's whenever we're looking at charisma, if it's getting us to 13, we're talking about qualifying for Patron Zerial. Patron Zerial. All right, let's talk about another swap. BBEG. BBEG, in the TTRPG space, BBEG stands for Big Bad Evil Guy. Okay. However, BBEG actually stands for Bartholomew Beelzebub Ezekiel Grubb. That is his name. But nobody remembers that. And nobody even remembers who he is, which is why he's an evil guy. Male Drow Wizard, lawful evil and support and speed champion. No affiliation. However, he is related to the awful ones, as you can see. He has stuff that interacts with the awful ones. His main attack is magical Chill Touch. BBG conjures a spectral hand over the enemy with the most health and touches it, dealing 1 hit. That's it. You got the touch. Yeah, he does. All right. He has a passive ability. That's what a level 0 ability is here at the top. Awful Nemesis. As the sworn enemy of the awful ones, BBEG is eligible for any adventure that any of them are eligible for. However, they still don't remember who he is. Commit to the bit, folks. So, you do not, I want to be very clear. This is real strong. You do not have to own any of the awful ones. You don't have to have them. If you do own them, you don't have to have them in a formation. It's just, if they were to qualify for a variant, BBEG qualifies too. He can go there too. I've given this a new term recently. Came up with this last week. And I kind of like it. So champions who can just go wherever they want, where they shouldn't belong, because it could be, hey, you can only use champions with a 12 con, or let's say 14 con, like Vajra stuff. Well, if one of the awful ones qualifies, he goes. We've termed these party crashers. We've dubbed them party crashers because they don't care. They're coming to the party, and they don't care if they were allowed to go there or not. So he is a limited party crasher in the sense that he can go anywhere the awful ones go. So if he shows, just check. Is he available in this adventure? He very well might be, even though he shouldn't be. His main buff is called Evil Overlord. He increases damage of all champions with an intelligence of 12 or less. Again, he's buffing his minions because he's the smart one. He's the smart one, but he needs to make his minions do more, right? So in 12 or less, I use BBG a lot. I don't know why I love the dumb DPS, but I shouldn't call them that. 12 is actually a pretty solid bar. He's just a snob. He's just a snob. But this is my bae. This is Karlach. So if you're running Karlach DPS, BBG buffs Karlach, right? But if they have an intelligence of higher than 12, BBG is not buffing them at all. Okay. Homebrew. BBG increases the damage bonus of Evil Overlord by 100% for each active potion, stacking multiplicatively. Remember, multiplicative is a good way. Well, folks, there's a lot of potions in the game. These are the ones they're talking about, everything here. So technically, this can go to 24 stacks, right? 5 different types of base potions, 4 levels of each, plus 1 of each of the huge potions, the 7-day potions. That's technically what you could do. Only once have I ever popped off, like, I did 20, and I might have had like 22 stacks going. I don't know, I might have hit 24. There was a difficult tier 4 variant an event or two ago, and I had BBG in, and I finally popped them all just to do it. Because I needed the damage. But usually it's, like, don't just fire that off because you're like, oh, I gotta do this every time I have BBG. Do it when you need it. Do it when you need it. Spec choices, power gaming, min-maxing, or rules lawyering. If you're going, why does this sound like above the table D&D? It's because this is the character play. This is the BBEG. This is the big bad evil guy, usually played by the dungeon master. So everything is about dungeon master related, right? Like, all right. Power gaming. BBG increases the damage bonus of Evil Overlord by 200% for each evil champion in the formation. Stacks multiplicatively. Hey, guess what? Min-maxing. Same thing, but 150%, so slightly less, for each champion with total ability score of 78 or less. Oh, and then rules lawyering. Same thing, but it's 100%, so less again, for each lawful champion. So what you're trying to do is figure out the biggest boost, right? Now, these are multiplicatively stacking. These are pretty straightforward multipliers. So I want to tell you how to do this math. It isn't just look at the highest number. You got to do a little bit of math here. Well, in this group it is, but because these are ones and this is a 3, you'd pick 3. But if there's multiple, if there's higher than a 1 in these, you kind of got to do some math. You just want to, just in case. Because when you're dealing with this kind of a change in multipliers, it makes sense. 200% means 3x. So if this was 5 champions, it would be 3 to the 5th. Okay, you can do that in a calculator. So 3 times itself, 5 times, right? 150 is 2.5%. That one's going to take or 2.5 multiplier, excuse me. And then this is just 2x. 100% is 2x. So we have 3 of these. So 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 is 8. This is going to be an 8x multiplier, or 700% total boost. Right, if this was 3, I don't know, because 2.5%. Because 2.5x, I don't want to multiply a half. But if this was 3, then it would be 3 times 3, which is 9 times 3, which is 27, right? So you can do these with a calculator. I don't do them in my head. Doing math in my head is on a stream. No, thank you. So yeah, just know you want to convert into the multiplier. Convert into a multiplier, which is basically adding 100% and then moving the decimal place. All right. Rise, my minions. Every 10 seconds, BBEG creates a plodding zombie. That's right, folks. He's not just a wizard. He's a necromancer. In front of the party and slowly plods forward. Zombies persist with area changes. Enemies near the zombie take a number of seconds worth of bud damage every second. It's a big number. Look, here's the zombie. I don't know why these... Oh, it's because we're in the fog. Here's the zombies, and you can see a little blue radius appear around them. That's the area they're dealing damage in. That's the area they're dealing damage in. Okay. Move forward. And you'll see they're in the same place that they were, right? So they move with us. Okay, the zombies are a big deal. The zombies are a big deal. Because of sources of corpses. The time it takes for Rise My Minions to summon a zombie is reduced by 2.5 seconds for each Awful Ones member in the formation. Okay, so that's one thing. You can make them spawn faster if there's more Awful Ones in the formation. And the damage bonus of Evil Overlord is increased by an amount for each summoned zombie, stacking multiplicatively, that's the good way, with buffs applying to the pre-stack value. That's the OP way. This is a mathematically overpowered ability. MOP, MOP. We call them MOPs now. So BBEG MOPs. BBEG's got a mathematically OP ability, and it's based off the number of zombies on the screen. Okay, so if you add more Awful Ones, his buff's gonna get even bigger. However, you can just create more zombies with Balgranus Undead Horde. Balgranus symbol appears in the air for 30 seconds. While the symbol is in the air, every time Rise My Minion summons a zombie, it summons 2 instead of 1. Here's what it looks like. Let's get that symbol in the air. It'll appear right here. There's Balgranus symbol. It pulses, and now when a zombie spawns, hey, there's 2. So you can double the number of stacks you have. Right? Now, there is an interesting interaction. Again, if you have like multiple Awful Ones out, like let's say you only have like 2 Awful Ones, So it reduces it by like 5 seconds, so 10 seconds down to 5 seconds. Well, that's doubling, how many zombies are coming out as well. But then you throw like Strongheart, who's coming up in the next event into the party. He's got an interaction where he can join an affiliation, and that actually counts for this, and it would reduce it down to 2.5 seconds per zombie. Now, you can't get lower than 2.5 seconds. You can't put all 3 of the awful ones plus Strongheart and get it down to like 0. Like, once upon a time, we could do that, and it was glorious. Once upon a time, we could do that, and we could add Narak, and it were just tons of zombies. We called it Thriller. There's so many zombies on the screen. Devs didn't like that. They nerfed that real quick. They nerfed that real quick. But yeah, so you just need to, if you want more zombies, first off, hit the ultimate. If you want even more, add more members of the awful ones to the party. All right, the next ability is called Railroad. If the current area is completed in 5 seconds or less, BBEG reduces the next area's quest requirements by an amount. It's not 50%. I have a feat for that. It's 25%. I was like, oh, that's way too big. 25%. So that's your quest goal up here in the top right. If you complete the area in 5 seconds or less, you would drop from 25 down to what? 12 and a half, 6, 19, 18, 19, depending on how it does this number, right? And there's a feat for that because I was just using it and it doubles the effect. So 50% would take me down to like, 12, 13. It's a pretty big speed effect. That is his only speed ability, is it just affects that. Item-wise, we get Evil Overlord, Homebrew, Rise My Minions, and Sources of Corpses. Folks, it's like all the abilities get an item. And we keep going. Specializations. And then we cool down the ultimate. He has a fantastic itemization setup. All of these are great, right? Obviously, our Sources of Corpses is the big one. But they're all great, right? Because, having the ultimate cooldown capped means you can have double zombies more often, right? Feat wise, everything you would expect. Damage all champions, Evil Overlord. This one, Evil Party, is a special one. It increases the effect of Evil Overlord by 400%, which is huge on its own. Then it changes Evil Overlord to target champions with a int or 11 or lower instead. So to get that 400%, your DPS has to be 11 or lower instead of 12 or lower. So there is a trade-off. But, if it qualifies, yeah, take an extra 400% damage, right? You can buff Homebrew, Rise My Minions, Railroad for the speed effect, the specializations. You can buff the Charisma score. Again, you can buff the speed effect, just double it. You can double the speed effect. There's only one, though. Charisma qualifies them for Zerial in anything that's Zerial that an awful one didn't already qualify for. Right? Because remember, they go anywhere the awful ones go. Yeah. So BBG goes lots of places. He gets around. Let's talk about another party crasher in the form of Dungeon Master. That's right, folks. Dungeon Master from the Saturday morning cartoons. He was the 100th champion in Idle Champions. He's a male human wizard. His age is over 1,000. Technically, behind the scenes, I believe it's 1,001. Lawful Good, Healing Support, and Goldfind Champion. No affiliation. He's not actually affiliated with the Saturday Morning Squad. Kind of like BBEG isn't affiliated with the Awful Ones, right? His stats are unknown. They're just not listed. Behind the scenes, I believe they're all 18s. But it lists as unknown because he's the Dungeon Master. You don't know his stats. Base attack is Magic Missile. He fires white rays at a random enemy. 9-second cooldown is a magic attack. His passive ability is Dungeon Master Rules. Now, this could be Dungeon Master Rules! And it can also just be like the rules of Dungeon Master. Dungeon Master Rules. And it's that second one that we're talking about. He's eligible to start in all adventures. He goes anywhere he wants. He crashes all the parties. Period. Dungeon Master can go everywhere. First champion in the game to do that. Okay. Patience Young Ones is his main ability. He increases the damage of champions by 100% for each champion in the formation that is 20 years or younger, and it stacks multiplicatively. If the sum of the 6 youngest champions' ages is 100 years or less, so they're real young, he boosts it 400%, but it's a post-stack boost. Which, I mean, I think I'd probably change that to pre, and we'd all be happier. So he wants to be in parties with young folks, which fits, because again, Saturday morning squad, right? Words of encouragement. He adds temporary HP to the entire party upon entering an area when he is present. What does that mean? What do you mean when he's present? Well, look, is that Dungeon Master? That's not Dungeon Master. That's Uni the Unicorn. Why is Uni the Unicorn there? Disappearing Act. Upon entering a new area, there's a 50% chance the Dungeon Master doesn't appear in the formation and instead is replaced by a frightened Uni the Unicorn. While DM is away, the formation's gold find is boosted, and if you return to a previously completed area, Dungeon Master is always with the formation. This is a little nod to the way he would pop in and out of the cartoon. Like, he'd be talking to them, and then they'd turn around, they'd have a conversation, and they'd turn back, he'd be gone. Yeah. Spec choices. Now, his main 2 spec choices are Where Did He Go This Time and Fear Not Champions. He has a third, and it's secret. I'm not telling you. No, I'm kidding. I'll tell you. Where Did He Go This Time? The chance Dungeon Master doesn't join the formation is increased to 75%, and the gold find amount is doubled. So if you're really trying to get gold, you'd go with the left spec, because you'd be bringing Uni in, and you just want the gold. Fear Not Champions, it changes the other way around. So the chance he doesn't join the formation is decreased to 25%, and your temp HP that you get is doubled. So if you're looking for survivability, you go with the right spec. Now, if you are doing a variant, along with being a party crasher, he's also what I call a party bus. If you are doing a variant that has restrictions, Dungeon Master will have a third spec choice, and it's called Special Guest Star. Right? He brings his Special Guest Star onto the show, and it is randomly chosen from restricted champions that have been restricted out of the variant. Priority goes to champions in a bench slot if, like, the entire bench slot weren't available. Like, if no one in a slot was available, then that would be where the priority goes. Okay, now it is just one champion picked at random currently. It's very random. It's very RNG. It's very up to the winds of fate. Yeah. But no, that's kind of one of his strongest aspects, is he can go everywhere and he can bring someone with him. And sometimes it's a game changer champion, right? And that's what you're looking for when you're trying him out. There has been talk about, at some point, if he gets a rework, changing it from picking a champion to picking a bench seat. And you can take any champion that's restricted out from that bench seat, which would make him much better. But that is not the current situation we live in. And so use him the way he lives currently, right? Use him the way he lives currently. Dungeon Master also has one of the most horrific skins in the game. Vacation Dungeon Master. He's wearing sandals with socks. Oh God, I can't even. I'm so glad it's covered up. Whew. I just can't. Oh my God. Oh, the horror. Is that all of his kit? Yeah, he's got a very straightforward kit. Yeah. Let's talk about his ultimate, because the ultimate is really cool. You notice it's grayed out, which means we can't use it. Invigorate. Dungeon Master waves his hands, and the ultimate ability with the longest remaining cooldown immediately recharges. The cooldown for this ultimate is set to the time the recharged ultimate had left. So if an ultimate was down to 220 seconds, and you hit this, it instantly resets, and then Invigorate has a 220 second cooldown. Okay, so it swaps itself. Dungeon Master increases the damage of all champions in the formation for half of the time his ultimate is cooling down. I have no idea what that boost is. It doesn't say anywhere. But hey, a little more damage for a while, right? So let's show. I want to do this with. It's better when Uni's on the screen. Yeah, we're gonna wait until Uni's on the screen, just because there's a cool little thing. Because remember, he's got to do something to recharge the ultimate, and so I want to get Uni on the screen so you can see, like, hey, he's not here. Oh, God, why can't we get it? Oh, because I picked the chances lower. I should have picked the chances higher. Gaarawarr, why'd you do that? All right, well, maybe we'll do it later. Here's how it works. So we just pop off this ultimate, 90-second cooldown. It's cooling down, and then we just go, hey, boom, and we get it back. And we get it back, and we could use it again right away, but that would be pointless. That would be pointless, because we already triggered it. Oh, we'll do it again. Maybe we go from 2 to 4? I don't think it works that way. No, it doesn't. Okay, so yeah. Alright, that's Dungeon Master. Items, damage all champions, patience young ones, words of encouragement, disappearing act, and invigorate. Increases the effect of invigorate. Again, we have no idea what it even is in the first place, but sure. Damage all champions, gold find, patience young ones, words of encouragement, disappearing act, everything you'd expect, right? Just all of the straightforward stuff. Alright, let's talk about another RNG champion. Shaka. When the walls fell. This is my favorite skin for Shaka, but Shaka, this is the base version of Shaka in his little white outfit with his white bucket hat. But I only use Shaka as Spelljammer. Shaka is a male tiefling warlock, neutral good, healing, and support. A member of the Rivals of Waterdeep. Full affiliation to Hani, Gaarawarr, Kent, Selise, Shaka, and Virgil, all available in the game. Base attack is Eldritch Blast. Beam of crackling energy shoots towards an enemy, dealing damage. Main ability, and everything that Shaka is built around, is a celestial puzzle. Shaka attempts to solve a celestial puzzle with the potential for great rewards. 4 random slots in the formation are assigned a random tag. What do they mean by tags? They're talking about things up here, like healing, support, warlock, tiefling, male. Those are tags, okay? Assigned a random tag. For each champion in those slots that matches the slot's tag, Shaka increases the damage of all champions by an amount, and it stacks multiplicatively. So you want to match at least 2 tags. Ideally, all 4, right? A 5th slot is chosen, but remains locked with an unknown tag until a specialization is chosen. So here we go. We got female non-binary. We got halfling. Question mark. Another female non-binary back here in this column. And DPS in the back, right? So you would want to place people that match these. So female non-binary would want to go there. Elf would want to go there. We don't have a DPS in the party. We don't have a halfling in the party either. So you do your best to match what you can. This would at least be 2 tags, right? And so Shaka would be getting 2 stacks. He's actually got 3. Oh, Drow, yeah. So he's got 3 stacks, so EO8 buff. But that's what you're doing. It is very random. The slots are random that it applies to. The tags are random. Good luck. Celestial Resistance. Shaka adds temp HP to the entire party when changing areas and refreshes it every 10 seconds. This is fantastic. I love this. They changed this and made it so much better. The amount of hit points is increased by 25% for each celestial puzzle slot that is filled properly. Stacks additively. So the more you get it, the better the temp HP. He is great. Him and Dungeon Master both are options for when you're in a variant where your whole party is taking damage. Like it's just part of the variant restriction. Because that damage, if you do it right, the damage just comes out of the shields. You don't add a lot of tanks. You have like 1 tank. And then the damage just comes out of the shields and you're fine. Right? Feast or Famine. Shaka increases the base effect of a celestial puzzle by 50% for each properly filled puzzle slot he's adjacent to, and it stacks multiplicatively. So Shaka would want to go here. He'd want to be adjacent to all 3 of these, because then that multiplies his boost. And now we're looking at E13. We were EO8 before. Now we're at E13, right? Again, he's not even leveled up yet. So that kind of placement is important for Shaka as well. Now, specialization choices, he's actually got 2 sets. His first one chooses his ultimate. You can either have a blinding wall of light or you can have a disintegrating wall of light. Blinding wall of light sits right over here in front of the party, and anyone that passes through it misses their attacks for a while. Okay. Disintegrating wall of light sets up over here on the right-hand side, and any enemy that walks through it has a chance to be disintegrated completely. If they were to take damage from it, there's a chance, like they take some damage, but if there's a chance that they just are gone. That includes bosses that walk through it. Okay. So you pick what you're looking to do, you know. And it doesn't really work on stationary bosses. No, that's not a boss made of paper. It's a boss that just sits in one place because the boss doesn't walk through it. Okay. Neither of those would work on that. Riddling Rivals, the next ability. The base effect of Celestial Puzzle is increased by 100% for each other Rivals of Waterdeep champion in the formation, stacking multiplicatively. So in a full Rivals formation, Shaka's stuff just goes off, right? The damage buff goes way up because it's 100% stacking multiplicatively. And there's, 6 of them total, so 5 others in the formation. So you get 5 stacks. So 2 to the 5th, right? Boost. Spec choice, the final spec choice. This is for that last puzzle slot. You get to decide what happens here. You can do child's play. You can make it an easy puzzle. It just chooses one of the more easy things. Female non-binary is what it would put in that tag. Next one, pen and paper. This is a harder one. This would put speed as the tag. These can change. These little the blue tags could be different. They're different every time you do an adventure. So this time it would be the speed tag, but it buffs, and it also buffs the base effect of Celestial Puzzle by 50%. So because you didn't go with an easy out, you made it harder, you get a bonus. Okay. Sunday edition, this is the hardest version. It's going to pick something much harder to match. It's going to pick a race instead of a role. So it's gender, it's role, or it's race. So Aasimar, the base effect of Celestial Puzzle is then doubled. Remember, affecting the base of something that multiplicatively stacks, super strong. Okay, so you're either going to 50% increase or double it. Now, if you just don't want to do the puzzle at all, if you're like, I'm fine with what's out here, I'm not even using him for the puzzle, you can choose Brain Break, and it doubles your temp HP that you get from Celestial Resistance. So if you're putting him in for survivability, you'd go Brain Break. And then that tag just disappears. See? All right. Let's get him leveled all the way up. Yeah, that's everything. Okay, itemization. Pair of damage all champions. Celestial Puzzle, Celestial Resistance. So damage, survivability. Feast or Famine. So that's the boost around adjacencies. And then reducing the cooldown on the ultimate attack. Feat-wise, damage all champions. Puzzle Master. This adds an additional puzzle slot to the formation. I had this in. That's why we had a bunch available. And again, those, if you can match them, it stacks multiplicatively. So this is a big feat for him. Celestial Puzzle, Celestial Resistance, Feast or Famine, Riddling Rivals. We got a Wisdom +1. Now, again, that's a qualification for Narak, if you want to do Narak shenanigans. Yeah. Let me make sure. Okay, here's what the ultimate looks like. This is the disintegrating wall of light. 50% chance. If they take at least 1% of their max health as damage off of this, 50% chance to be disintegrated and die immediately. Otherwise, they take double damage for 30 seconds. But we're just going to nuke all these, right? They just die. We don't have to click on anything. They're just dying as they run into the wall. They're just dying as they run into the wall. All right, let's talk about Nova next. Nova, right here. Boom. I'm going to move this back. All the way back. Nova. Nova Vajayr, a female Air Genasi warlock. Chaotic Good, tanking support and debuffer. A member of the Heroes of Rorois, and that is a full affiliation. Ayla, Lucius, Nova, Keelik, and Sentry. 20 Overwhelm. This is a tanking stat, so she starts off a little lower than some other tanks. But that's because she's not a strength tank. She's a she's like a charisma dex tank. I don't know. It's different. Curiosity is the main effect. Nova is intrinsically curious about the creatures inhabiting the world. She inspects enemies as soon as they spawn, increasing their damage taken by an amount that varies. This increases by 10% additively every second they're alive. So if you're not killing them right away, they start taking more and more damage. This is the debuff effect. Caps at 1,000% after 90 seconds. This ability is increased by 200% if Nova is in the frontmost column of the formation. So if she's tanking, she's in the tank column, it goes up. But that does mean you can just use her as a support debuffer somewhere else. Okay. The crew. Nova increases the damage of champions within 2 slots of her. That is 2 slots adjacently. By 0.1% for each champion level on the affected champions. Champion level is this number, like Dungeon Master 2055. So it's literally, as you level up champions, she buffs based off the total level of the champions within 2 adjacencies of her. Okay. This stacks multiplicatively. Now it is 0.1%, but still, multiplicatively lets it ramp up way better than if it was additively. Each champion's contribution caps at 1,000 levels after their last available upgrade. So I'm capped here. I have upgrade capped on Dungeon Master. There's a circle with a line through it down here at the bottom. Okay. This is one of the few rare scenarios where over-leveling actually helps you. So anyone within 2... Like if everybody here was within 2, like this is within 2 adjacent. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, right? That's how you figure out 2 adjacencies. Touching within 2, touching adjacencies. It would even do 1, 2 over to the front line. We could put it here to make it also do 1, 2 here. In this formation, it would count from here. It would count everything except this back spot, okay? If we unlock this level up indicator, we can then over-level the champions 10 times. If I have enough gold to do 100 at once. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Nope, I didn't. 8 and some change. But technically, we could get them up to 3,055. And you'd have to figure that out for each champion. Each champion has a separate upgrade cap. Just creating more and more multiplicative stacks for her. So we look at the crew. I'm looking at 11,000 stacks right now. E15 buff. I haven't even leveled her up all the way yet. She's already an E15 buff. I didn't even over-level other people. Okay. So the crew can be huge. The crew can be huge. Depends on the champion. Different champions have different upgrade caps. Mako's in slot 9 has a tiny. It's not even a 4-digit cap. He's a triple-digit upgrade cap. But some champions have thousands of upgrade levels. Like, we got BBEG over here, 3820. That's a lot of stacks. Right? All right, Protective Field. Nova increases max health with all other champions by 25% of her base max health. This is a health share feature. It's pretty common. Aroa's Synergy. So this is a synergy with her other heroes of Aroa's. Nova contributes 1 stack to Aroa's Synergy every time an enemy is stunned, rooted, or slowed. So she likes to interact with people who have these types of crowd control effects. Their maximum number of stacks is 200 plus the highest area completed in the current run, divided by 5, rounded down. Math. 50% of her contributed stacks are removed when changing areas, so it has to be on a per area basis. The crew is increased by 20% times the total number of Aroa's Synergy stacks, and you can see these numbers over here. So right now we're at 222 because we paused. So an EO6 boost currently to the crew. That's helping us out. Slow, hey, she helps herself. Nova's attacks slow the movement of enemies she damages by 50% for 5 seconds. Enemies that are slowed by this ability deal half damage to Nova. So this is a damage reduction and crowd control all in one. This effect does not stack if it is applied again before it expires, but it does refresh the cooldown. Failsafe. This one is when Nova becomes overwhelmed. So when she suddenly starts tanking 20 or more enemies, Tiangong, that's her sword, creates a protective barrier around her and all other champions in her column, so the tanking column usually, granting them each 250% of Nova's max health as temp HP. The effective, it's okay, but it's only when she's overwhelmed. The effect of the crew is increased by 400% for each champion's shield that remains in place. So while they stay shielded, she buffs and it stacks multiplicatively. Okay, the most number of tanks you'll have in that column is 3. I don't think we've ever seen a 4 tank front line. I don't think we have. We might have somewhere. So, yeah. You want this. This is better in a multi-tank thing, but it only triggers when she's overwhelmed. She is stunned until the shield is broken or she is no longer overwhelmed. This can only trigger once per area, and there's the kind of problem with it, right? Changing areas resets it so it can happen again, but also resets the damage bonus and unstuns Nova. So the once per area thing is kind of a limiter. Spec choices, we can do new recruits or tight knit. With new recruits, the crew now applies to all champions within 3 slots, which would do this entire formation. But the extra champions are only counted towards its levels total at 50% effectiveness. So might not, depending on the level, you're going to have to do your math. Is adding 1 more champion in this situation worth it? If it adds a lot, usually it's worth it. But you got to do the math here. Tight knit just doubles the effect of the crew. So, this may be the better choice, right? I'm going to choose that this time because we aren't even working with a full formation here. No, we can move forward again. All right. And I think that's it. Yes. Now, activate Tiangong. This is her ultimate. Nova levitates up in the air as Tiangong floats in front of the formation, releasing 3 waves of blue energy that deal damage to all enemies. So this is screen-wide, 3 screen-wide pulses of damage. The damage is increased by 1% times the total number of Aroa's synergy stacks. So it's better with a full Aroa's party with full stacks. There it goes. Pulses out. The damage, the blue thing is not that big. You can't see it, but it does 3 waves of damage. 3 waves of damage. Item-wise, pair damage all champions. We got a health item. You got to have that on a tank for them to stay alive at higher levels. You got the crew. You got synergy, and you got ultimate cooldown. Feat-wise, again, damage all champions. Health for tanks. Curiosity, the crew. We got Aroa's synergy. We have overwhelm, so that she takes more before she gets overwhelmed. So all kind of the basic stuff. Nothing outrageous. Nothing outrageous. And finally, Selise. Selise comes to us from the Rivals of Waterdeep. Female human paladin of tier, lawful neutral, tanking support, and debuff champion. Base attack changes. Just understand this. Sword and board is when they're sword and board says aggressive. This is their base attack when they're in aggressive stance. We'll talk about stances. Selise attacks the nearest enemy and bashes them, stunning them for 2 seconds. You see the ultimate says switch to wall stance. I call this stance revolution. Basically, every time you hit the ultimate, she changes her stance. Then it switches in a very specific order. So it goes from aggressive to wall. And we're gonna switch here. Boom. Now you can see there's an icon now. It looks like a castle. Then it's going to go from wall to last resort, and that's the lightning bolt. And it can have a different effect, like a look, depending on things. And then it goes back to aggressive, and aggressive is the sword. Okay. I don't know why we suddenly have a 3-minute cooldown. Oh, there we go. Okay, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. All right, so we saw the base attack. Oh, really? Turn off auto progress. We saw the base attack already for aggressive. So now if we look for wall, it's sword and board. So she attacks the nearest enemy and damages all enemies in a small area. So that's an AoE. We hit it again for a last resort. Now this is an unenergized lightning bolt. We'll talk about that effect in a minute. Sword and board at a last resort. So again, attacks the nearest enemy, damaging and knocking back enemies in a small area. So similar thing, but in a different stance. And the stances matter. Divine Sense. We'll talk because the stances affect a lot more than just her base attack. Divine Sense. Selise increases the damage of champions in the 2 columns behind her. Bonus effects are provided based on Selise's current stance, which can be changed using her ultimate. Protect the Party. Increases the health of all other champions by 25% of her max health. This is increased by 5% for each other rivals of Waterdeep champion in the formation, applied additively. Now remember, there's a total of the 6, so 5 others. That could be another 25%. So she could boost the party's health by 50% if it was a rival's party. Right. Shield of Psychomancy. Now this is where things get specific to stances. So you have to pay attention and you have to understand, figure out what you want and make sure you're in the right stance. Okay. While in aggressive stance, Selise will toss her shield in an arc. Think Captain America. Targeted at the furthest enemy every 4th attack. It deals damage and stuns all enemies it hits. So it goes in an arc and comes back, and everyone that it hits takes damage and is stunned for 2 seconds. If the enemy is armor or hit-based, so segmented health, it takes double hits from all attacks until she attacks with the shield again, or changes stances. This is her armor shred effect. So if she tags an enemy, like a boss that has segmented health, all damage against that boss, if it's going to remove a segment, it's going to remove 2 instead. Big deal. Big deal. Only an aggressive stance. Only an aggressive stance. Vow of Vengeance. While not an aggressive stance, so that means in wall or last resort, Selise increases the effect of Divine Sense by 10% each time an enemy attacks her. This is a ramping buff based off her getting hit. Stacks multiplicatively up to 100 times. Resets when changing areas. Okay. The stacks do not reset when changing stances, though. So you can stance and come back to it and take that boost. All right. But this is when you're not an aggressive. So ramping buff, armor shred or hit segmented health shred, double credit shred with when you're in aggressive. Damage boost based off being hit when you're not. Thunderous Smite. This is that electric icon, the lightning icon. When switching from last resort to aggressive stance, Selise channels the divine power of Tyr and attacks a random enemy with her sword, dealing Bud-based AoE damage and Bud-based chain lightning damage from the enemy struck to 5 nearby enemies. But it can only happen every 180 seconds. This is her ultimate. It is just not a button press, right? It's upon pressing the button when changing stances, but it's only every 180 seconds. Okay. And that's important to remember. Spec choices. We could do Relentless Avenger. These 3, there's technically 4 specializations that you can choose from. These 3 plus 1 more. She gets 2 chances to choose, and whatever you don't choose here shows up in the next one along with the 4th. So you're going to get to choose 2 of the 4 total specs. Relentless Avenger, Reflective Shield, Mithril Skin. Relentless Avenger, while in aggressive stance, so this is an aggressive spec. Armored or hit-based enemies now take triple hits when affected by the Shield of Psychomancy. So this can take it up to triple, 3 segments removed per hit. And again, that interacts with other armor shredders as well. Right? So you can shred so much with Selise. It's great. So this is if you're dealing with armored stuff, really. Reflective Shield, while in wall stance, so again, very stance specific, Selise can deflect projectiles back at the enemies that shot or cast them, dealing 6 seconds of Bud-based damage. This is great against casters, anyone or ranged enemies like bosses, even if they're armored. As long as 6 seconds of Bud would remove a chunk, this is going to do it. They're every time they attack, it's going to just deflect back. AoE bosses, yeah, just take damage. Mithril Skin. While in last resort stance, Selise takes reduced damage the further her health falls below 80%. So damage reduction in last resort only. I'm going to go this just to get us through this and get to the second set. So now the final one is called Tyr's Eyes. Increases the range of divine sense to affect 3 columns behind her instead of 2. So this is, you would choose this if your optimal DPS placement is 3 columns back. Right. Yeah. So again, very stance based in terms of her specialization choices, but also very functionality based, and her stances affect her functionality, right? And we'll talk about that here in a second as well. Rivalry's Insight. Divine Sense is increased by 100% for each rival of Waterdeep in the formation, stacking multiplicatively. Now, again, there's 5 more of those. She just on her own, she just gets 100%. But there's 5 more that could potentially be in there. So a full rivals party, pretty big. Also, keep in mind, I did mention Strongheart as a champion that coming in the next event who can join an affiliation. That counts for something like this. Okay. I think that's it. I just want to double check on one thing. Yes. Divine Sense. So this was, again, bonus effects are provided to Divine Sense based off the current stance. They aren't listed here, but they are listed over here. So, when in aggressive stance, champions affected by Divine Sense have their base attack cooldowns reduced by 1. When in wall stance, increases the effect of Divine Sense by 400% when Selise has been attacked in the last 10 seconds. Additionally, champions in the same column as Selise take 25% less damage from melee and ranged attacks. So, damage reduction for the whole front column, if she's in the front. Last Resort increases the base effect of Vow of Vengeance by 150%. This buff is additively reduced by 10% for every 5 seconds Selise is in Last Resort stance, and additively increased by 5 per second for every 5 seconds Selise is not in Last Resort stance. This is because they don't want you spending a lot of time in Last Resort. They want you cycling through the other stances. Okay. So keep those in mind. Itemize, damage all champions, health, again, that's what you want to tank, Divine Sense, Rivalry Insight, Vow of Vengeance, obviously nothing for the ultimate because that's just her stance revolution. Damage all champions, health, the cooldown of Thunderous Smite. Remember, this is effectively how you would reduce her ultimate cooldown. Like, her ultimate is that ability every 180 seconds. Reflective Coating. This increases the stun duration of her base attack while in aggressive stance by 2 seconds, so it would take it to 4. Want him stunned longer? There you go. Champion of Tyr. Increase the damage of Thunderous Smite. That's her ultimate by 100%. Prevents roaming familiars from automatically activating Selise's ultimate attack. So from changing her stance. It's a very specific type of feat. Taunt. Increases the damage to Selise by 400%, which means nothing because she's a tank. Selise's attacks have a 50% chance to taunt enemies now, though. Okay, so pulling them to her. And remember, she's got, in wall stance, she has a ramping buff, right? Well, not in aggressive stance. In wall and last resort, ramping buff. Divine Sense feeds Vow of Vengeance, Rivalry's Insights, Wisdom. Again, that's like a Narak qualifier. Lots of Overwhelm stuff. Yeah, that's everything. That's everybody, folks. I told you it was going to take a little longer than... Oh my god, it took us like an hour and a half. Oh, there's so much going on with these champions, this event. There's a lot to deal with. All right, I'm going to race through. We got a short musical interlude. This is a song for Selise. Then we'll come back and I'm going to race and we're going to lightning round your questions. There's 13 of them. We got a baker's dozen of questions. If you got questions, remember, question : in front of it, and then Gabe will grab it and I'll see it. This is Soaking Away Regret.
Time away from phone. Did some good things and the battles were no joke. Think I settled in for the night with a book and a nice long soul. Gonna doff my armor and hang up my clothes. Take some time to run a whetstone down my blade. the stains from my plate, think of the choices I made. Praise till that I've come to the end of this day. Need some downtime to soothe the nerves I've been free. Set that glass of whiskey down upon my sheet. Take a moment to recover and be healed. Tomorrow I'll be right out there fighting on the field. But tonight I'll raise my glass and drink to tea. Please forgive me for the things I do. You won't see me kneeling down to you. Take some time when my quest is through. The body count I sadly must prove. Set that glass of whiskey down upon my sheet. Take a moment to recover and be healed. Tomorrow I'll be right back out there fighting on the field. But tonight I'll raise my glass and drink tea. Sinking further down, sliding back, walking memory lane, following my track. Those I lost, to those I must attack. Remembering those that haunt me as I fade to black. Set that glass of whiskey down upon my sheet. Take a moment to recover and be healed. Tomorrow I'll be right back out there fighting on the field. But tonight I'll raise my glass. Tonight I'll raise my glass. Yeah, tonight I'll raise my glass and drink tea.
All right, we're back. Let's do this. I'm like, we got to get this going. Because now I'm up to 18 questions. I'm going to hit the ones that are on topic first, but we will get to all of them, I promise. Wicked Minion, can you do the BBG 8 zombie achievement without any awful ones? Yeah. So the way you're going to do it is you're going to watch like this spawn rate, and you're going to kind of time it, like, okay, and you're going to count down, and you're count down, and you're going to count down, right? And right before you know the next one is going to spawn, you hit the ultimate, so you get the double spawns right away, and you will end up with 8 for the briefest moment. You'll end up with 8 on the screen. So there's 2, there's 4. I mean, that's technically 5, but we're going to have 6 here, 6. Okay. And right as these are going off the screen, 2 more are going to spawn. Oh, look, it works. If you time it right, it works. Because I've done it. All right, rough. Oh, no. How dare you? Well, we might not get to. We may come back to that later, Rough Rider. How dare you? Pranalias, with Korth's stat changer, you mean booster, would it affect BBEG's buffs where you want to be, the total will be 78 or less? Yes, because you're raising the total stats on someone, because you're rating the dex score, so that would raise the total stats. It might put them above the 78 or less for a lot of champions. This is why you got it when you're building a formation. You have to understand that the choices you make can ruin a formation or make it better. Okay. Or make it better. Nail. Oh, wait, this was a double, so I've got fewer questions than I thought. If I use the potion of specialization on Dungeon Master and re-pick the specialization. Is it another champion? No. The only way you can get a new champion is by restarting the adventure or variant. They call it DM fishing, where you start up an adventure, you just level Dungeon Master at 100 to see who it is. If it isn't who you want, you just restart. I hate it. I did it once on stream when Dungeon Master came out. It took me half an hour to get who I wanted because it is pure RNG. It's the worst. I don't recommend it. I don't recommend it. There's lots of people that do it. Masochists. I can't. No. But you can do it. Yeah. Fairy 4, can you trigger BBG speed ability without speed potions? Of course. It isn't 5 real world seconds. It's 5 game seconds. Yeah. It's absolute. It's BBG speed effect is fantastic. It works. It just kicks off after if you're not killing fast enough. Like a lot of speed. There are some speed effects that turn off if you start killing too slowly, and his is one of them. Yeah. But yeah, it's totally fine. And honestly, like, where it's going to fall off isn't the early 200 areas. It's the early areas. It's going to fall off later. So the early areas, you should be killing things instantly with click damage. Right? It's later on that they slow down. The deaths slow down. That's, yeah, no Lurking Rider. I appreciate the Nana Cherry reference, but we're not doing that one. Let me get rid of that one. Oh, that's a... Okay, hold on. All right, I am toast. We'll get to this. Was on reference for Selise. Is there a visual way to determine if an enemy has hits-based health versus armored? Yes. And I saw Nooble say, well, regular health is red and armored is yellow. And no, that's not... I mean, there's times when that's a thing. But if we look at here, here's an example in this actual event. This is segmented health. The description should be easy to understand. There's lots of little segments. It's not a pure health bar, right? And when you look at the health, it's an actual lot of health. That tells you that this is armored, along with this little shield that was on the dragon. That you can't see it because we're ripping through it. There's a little shield there. That and a regular health total tells you that that's an armored enemy, not just a segmented health enemy, which it is, but an armored enemy. Now, if you were to look at their health and it said 50, and it was a yellow bar, that means there's 2 rows of 25 segments, and he's got 50 health, and that's a hit-based enemy, which is a different kind of segmented health enemy. Okay, armored, you have to do a minimum amount of damage to remove a chunk. Hit-based, as long as you're doing 1 or more damage, you're removing a chunk. Okay, those are the 2 different kinds of enemies. Now, here's the thing: you can have an armored enemy that has red health. The yellow health indicates that there's 2 layers, 2 or more layers of health. That's what yellow indicates. Okay, you can have an armored enemy that's just got red health. It just means that, like, if it was just that underbar, that'd be 25 segments. Sometimes you get armored enemies in variants that have 3 or 4 segments. It's red. Those are the worst. The greater the number of segments, the easier it is to get through the armor, because the more segments there are, that's what you're dividing the health with. The larger the number you're dividing, the easier it is to get through the segments. So when it's the same amount of health, but it's only 4 as opposed to 50, it's harder to kill. I know that's weird, but yeah, that's the way it works. So the color designates, like yellow designates the fact that, oh, there's more health under this. And if you're taking yellow off and you still see yellow, there's more under that. And that's a thing. That's a thing. Okay. Man. So it's close. It's close, but it's different. There we go. There's Chosen again. Hakachuk, for Esmeralda is adequately prepared. Is there a way to tell progress? Sure, you can track the achievement. So this is your achievement and quest and challenge tracker over here on the right. And if we go over here and we're like, hey, Esmeralda, I want to track your achievement. If I hadn't done it yet, there'd be a little ghost star up here, like a little outline of a star. And you'd click on that star and it would appear. Is there someone? No, I've done everybody's achievements. Dang it. Okay, hold on. Have I? Oh, no, I've done every achievement in the game, haven't I? No, I'm at 99.9. Ah, there's somebody that we can demonstrate this with. Who haven't I done yet? Oh, it's Diana. Okay, so here's the star. See this little ghost star here? You just click on this and it tracks it. And then if we come out here, it's appeared. And that's how you can track an achievement that you're trying to chase. It also works with patron challenges. Like if you want to know, like, are you doing your patron challenge? There's a little star over here. It's going to appear out there as well. So yeah, that's for this little tracker. And you can actually do this and move it. I like to move it over here sometimes, right? And you can close it. You can remove that, and then you can close it. Whatever you want. I'm going to go back and do the generic stuff. I'm going to read this question, then I'm going to say no. Rough Rider 1995. Can you explain Binwin's special interaction with the Crowy familiar? No. Ask Mars. Ask Mars. I refuse. Crowy is my arch nemesis. I refuse. Iced Lance. What's Bud? What's Bud? Bud is this number down here with the lightning bolt. Right at the top left, it says base ultimate damage. That's what Bud stands for. And it is literally your damage per second on whoever your DPS is. Whoever is landing your highest hit, it's taking that damage, dividing it by their attack speed to get you your actual damage per second. And it shows you hit, total damage, divided by attack speed, damage per second, right? It tells you who it was, how long ago, what kind of degradation, because over time it degrades so that you have to keep doing solid hits. And it tells you at the bottom what your current Bud is, right? On this screen, we also get area-based monster health, which is a nice number to know. But Bud is the number you should actually be using to determine how good your formation is. These numbers up here, no. They lie. I'm not going to go into it again. But if you hover over here and you read this for both of these, they're liars. And in this house, we don't mess with liars. So Bud is what we use. Bud, a combination of your Bud and how far can you push? Because when you're trying to build a formation, you're not trying to build it on Area 1. I know. Look, on Area 1, just throw a bunch of champions in, get it going, killing things. When you start having trouble killing things, that's when you start making it. That's when you build your formation. So when you try to adjust it and make it better. Okay? Sometimes, like, I'll start a formation with just speed champions, not even have a DPS in, and I'll just start running. I won't even try to optimize their placement other than for their speed effect. But I'm not trying to get buffs. And sometimes I complete adventures just like that. So why spend the time to optimize a formation sometimes when you can just finish it with what you got? But you do need to learn how to optimize a formation. You need to do that at your wall, like where you're no longer able to kill things. And Bud is your Bud for that. Izerkers, do champion stats like Dex, Con, Strength, etc. only affect other champions' abilities synergies? So for the most part, they are basically, this is a video game, not Dungeons and Dragons, so it's affecting, access to other abilities. Like if you've got Dex 16 or higher, Korth will buff you. It's affecting access to patron variants or variants in general. It might restrict or gain access based off a restriction in a variant. There are certain times when you're fighting certain bosses, and I think it might be the case here with Choten. I don't see an indicator. Sometimes there will be a special indicator, and it'll tell you that something like, Choten's breath weapon, if you've got, is the chance to stun is reduced based on like your constitution score. It'll tell you in a little box. I've never tried to min-max a formation around whether I'm going to get stunned or something. But there are times where there's those kinds of effects in the game. But really, it's another number that they can use to tweak stuff and gain access to things. Yeah. Neuronin, is there an easy way to see whether champions use melee, magic, or ranged attacks? There's 3. And yeah, it's right here. When you look at their base attack, this symbol, this is the symbol, this little this is the symbol for magical attacks. So they both have a magical base attack and a magical ultimate attack. If we go to Sentry, this is a sword. That means it's melee. If we go to Caddy Bree, it's an arrow tip. That means it's ranged. Those are the 3 icons. Now you can also see it when you hover here, like I hover over Frida, and the bottom left of her portrait, like above the little black part that says Frida, it says you get the magical symbol. There's the ranged one. There's the melee one. If a champion has two, like if it can be both ranged and magical, or magical and melee, like Dark Urge's can be magic and melee, it'll show both. It'll show both. I need to close that. I'm like, why was my computer running more? And it's like, oh, I still had that other Idle Champions client open. Keone, what should I use my green gems for? I haven't bought anything, and I have about 50,000. Haven't bought anything yet. Keone, your green gems are power, but only if you spend them. Only if you spend them. And if you come up here to the gem shop, right here, gem items, you'll have more than I have here. The first thing I'm going to tell you, because you've got 50,000, is you're going to want to start with the cheapest familiar, which is the Mage Hand. Buy that. And then buy the next cheapest familiar, like Jeremy, and then just keep buying the cheapest. I think you might get 3 or 4 familiars in at this point. Just go ahead and buy a bunch of familiars. Don't buy the expensive 50,000 familiar. You want multiple. So start with the cheapest one and work your way up until you don't have enough gems to buy the next one. Okay. Then, so that's to start, because my rule is always, if you go to the gem shop and you see that you have enough gems to buy a familiar, buy the familiar. Like early on, that's just a good rule of thumb, because familiars are your automation. They make their quality of life. They're going to click on things in different ways. Everywhere out here that you see a little white box, including up here at the top right, everywhere there's a white box, they can click. And they can do different things, like clicking on the field kills things and picks stuff up. Clicking down here can level up champions. Clicking here can activate ultimates. Clicking here, they'll just walk along. And every now and then, they'll smash an ultimate. Right? There he goes. He's running over. He's going to smash that ultimate. Oh, we changed areas. Well, maybe now he'll run around and he'll smash an ultimate here and there. So familiars are quality of life, and so you want to slowly collect them, but you don't necessarily want to collect them at the expense of everything else, right? So once you've gotten whatever familiars you can get, I want you to then look at your core champions. Oh, there, he smashed it. Core champions are, I'm going to go here, champion origin, core. These are your starting 12. These are the ones you start the game with. This is Jarlaxle under here. And look at their gear. If they have no gear, which, I mean, I don't know. Have you been opening chests? I don't know. You want to open any silver chests you have in your inventory, and then look at this gear. If it's black, like if the little box is black, that means they don't have any. If it's white, it's barely anything. And what we're shooting for is to get these 12 to green or better. Like if it's green or blue, you want all of their slots filled in with some gear. And after you open up all of your silver chests, if they're not all green or better, then you're going to want to start buying some silver chests with your gems and opening them, maybe 5, 10 at a time until they are green or better. Once they're green or better, then you're going to start buying the gold chests from the shop, because silver chests drop white, green, and very rarely blue gear. But gold chests drop green, blue, and very rarely purple gear, right? So you want to get to greens first, because then the gold chests are going to give you blues more often than to start instead of greens. And because they cost so much more, you want to be getting that blue guaranteed. So get your greens from the silvers and then start buying the golds. And then going forward, check your gems. Look, if you've got gems, you should be spending them on chests, because chests contain power. Not only do they have gear, but they've got potions and contracts of various kinds, and you want those for your progression. Ice Lance, who should I use my dragon teeth on? So yeah, it's coming up time towards the end of the event where you're going to run. When the event ends, the game is going to auto spend your currency, and that's these dragon teeth up. Dragon claws, actually, I think is what they are, aren't they? Yeah, the Dragon Claws. It's going to spin these Dragon Claws in the shop for you automatically. I don't recommend that. I recommend you go spend it yourself. So decide what champion that you want to put them on. Because all of my champions have gear already and they're all full epic. I just put everything on my newest champion, which is Duke Ravengard. But you need to choose yours differently, and I don't know who you have. I don't know who you flexed. What I know you have is Duke and Esmeralda, and I'll tell you, both of those are great options. Duke is a beast if you like melee DPS formations. Duke is huge. And if you get Strongheart in the next event, just a destructive combination together. Esmeralda is honestly... Is Obalorn around? Anybody? I hope not. Honestly, I use Esmeralda instead of Orkira nowadays. She got that big of a rework, in my opinion. Especially if I'm dealing with armored stuff, because she's an armor shredder as well. So I mean, you're not going to go wrong like investing in those two, but it depends on who you have, right? Depends on who you flexed, and what kind of gear you need. On my new account, I spread it up a little bit, but I was really targeting Duke Ravengard because I ended up full epic, my first full epic on that account from an event, free to play. I put everything into Duke Ravengard, and then I've started putting things into other places to try to see if I can get some epics and get a little more item levels on the other champions. But it's really dependent on what you're trying to do with your champions and which champions you flex. Mikala, I'm new and I'm wondering if I should not level the click damage in favor of leveling heroes. It depends. So there's a rule for click damage, and that's that when you're leveling it, it's only going to do damage if the level over here, currently it's 15, is equal to or higher than the area you're on. So obviously we're way past that, right? But that's how you determine on whether you should still be investing in your click damage. Now I could invest more, and now suddenly I could click all the way to 215. And what this means is if it's equal to or higher, it means these familiars on the field are killing the enemies the moment they're at the damage threshold. Like I can take everyone out of my formation, and everything's going to die instantly because my click damage is killing everything. Okay. So you do level up your click damage early on, as long as your click damage is higher than your area. Once it's equal, roughly, then you can probably stop. It could still work for a little further, but then you need to be investing in your champions. Now, if you have any speed champions, you want to invest in them quickly to get their speed effect working. But if you're brand new, you probably don't yet. So the key is it's just going to help you. The amount you can level up your click damage is based off the favor you have in that campaign or event. So it's just as you accumulate that favor, you're boosting your gold find, that's boosting your click damage, it's letting you move quicker through early areas. So that's kind of the goal there. Move as quickly as possible through the early areas, and then worry about damaging things and killing things with your champions in the later areas when you're earning more gold, right? Was that everybody? Yeah, it's so weird because two of these are on a different thing. All right. Regis 2K, which champion's currently stacked with completed variants? What? Karlach and I'm so confused. Karlach and Gale, or am I missing someone? Oh, we're talking about patron variants. So Gale has a stack Gale can boost one of his abilities for completed Elminster patron variants. Karlach boosts for completed Zerial patron variants. Commodore Crux boosts for completed Light of Xerixis content across all patrons. That might be the only three. Off the top of my head, those are the three. But there might be one. I can't remember. What is Rhea actually useful for? She likes to boost lawful and good people, preferably lawful good DPS. She's good in that scenario. When your formation is lawful and good, your DPS is lawful or lawful good, she's a mega booster. And when your full formation is all lawful or good, that makes things even better. That's what she's for. Rhino, unlocked trials this morning. Nice. Search several times and not find any games. Create your own. Yes. Started after no one joins. Totally fine. Normal, you can solo. It's common to successfully run trials solo or my doom. So normal, you can solo. You're shooting for an initial contribution. Oh no. Over here. That's good. We're in one. This blue line here where it says damage and then it's going to have a number, an E value, and it's going to say total damage. This is your personal contribution, pure contribution. And if you're going to do a solo trials run in normal and it's day 1, what you're shooting for is a total of like 187, like between 187 and like 210. I stop at 187 because I know I've done it multiple times. 187 DPS. If I show up every single day of trials, I'll be able to do every single day and kill Tiamat on my own, and I'll get 2 achievements that normally I might not get. One is for top damage in my group, and one is for completing all 7 days of your quests. So shoot for 187, don't go over it. Check the number out here. This is based off your bud, but check the number out here. Try not to, shoot for 187. It goes a little over, you're fine. I don't remember what 200 number it is too much, but I just go for the minimum 187 and I'm good every time. Oh god, I gotta do so fast. The Bard's Forge. I purchased Merilwen's Golden Epic for a liquidity ability. Can I put a shiny on a GE? No. But you can put a GE on a shiny and it refunds a potion of polish. It works the other way around. There's no reason to stack them. It just raises the boost higher, so you're fine. Germ plays games. What are some basic formations for early on with not many unlocked champions? Oh, you asked this twice. I was like, didn't I skip this because this is, hold on. I wanted to come back if we had time. I don't know. Like, the formation building is based off the champions you have, the gear you have on them, and the item levels. In my guides to events, like there are some formations, suggested formations, builds for brand new people. If for core champions and Hitch. And that's as far as I can suggest formations, because that's the only time really that everybody is on roughly the same level. That's the only time. So it's very difficult for me to recommend formations, because what you need to learn, the basic foundational knowledge in this game is learning to build your own. And I've got guides for that. If you head over everybody, I've got over 170 guides for the game at the link that's going to pop into chat here in a second. One of them is called like Formation Strategy 101, and that's going to teach you how to build your own formation. I recommend that, but I don't do starter formations. There are people out there that might do that, but it kind of locks people into thinking, well, this is exactly what you have to use, and it's not. There's a lot of different ways to do things. Golden Taco Cat. Do you have any recommendations how to redo your formation when you hit a wall, but have like 200 levels to go? Oh, if you're at a wall at 200, that's going to be rough. It's going to be honest. Basically, you've hit that wall. Now you need to start swapping champions and just testing. Read the champion's abilities. Make sure you've optimized the placement of all the champions in your formation, and then maybe try someone else and then readjust. You have to learn that kind of swapping around, but 200 zones is a lot. You would have to have a horrible base formation to get another 200 areas. That's a long way to go, just to be honest. Makai Okami, I don't know if you answered last stream. Using Whittle at 800% combined tasty friends, less speed potions, Duke Strongheart 100% crit, no 17 stacks. How do you do it? What? Are you just trying to see how you get Strongheart at a lot of stacks? There's got to be a ton of enemies on the screen. They can't be dying. He's got to build up his crits up. If everything's dying instantly, you can't get Strongheart's stacks up, if that's what you're trying to do. I don't understand that question, but I think that's what you're trying to do. The Bard's Forge, is there an easy way besides just leveling to tell a character soft cap? You can look at my guides. It's listed in my guides. Otherwise, no. Lurking Rider, has swapping to Esmeralda reduced how often Bud's Buggy has occurred for you? Yes. Or Kira is a major trigger for that. I'm not going to answer the second part. We don't have time. What kind of speed champions should I be looking for? All of them. I'm running out of time. We're going to go slightly over, Gabe. I'm sorry. I want to get all these answered. Go to roll. Go to speed, but don't put any new ones in there. I don't... no, hold on. Reset sorts and filters. Roll speed. These are all speed champions. They all do different things. So I recommend figuring out, like, you're going to want to build a... Ultimately, you're going to want all of them, but building a full formation around speed champions lets you race through early content. I recommend people start collecting champions based off 3 groupings early on. One is speed, one is pushing power, and one is gold find. So yeah, there's a lot. Amlath, are we too far into the event now to possibly get it all complete? If you're a new player, you weren't going to complete it all anyway, because that's not how events work. But there is enough time for you to unlock champions and do at least tier 1 of all the content. If you're brand new, if you've been playing for a little bit, then you might be able to complete tier 2. But the tiers of content are based off your power progression in the game long term. But the key thing you want to do is unlock the champions and do tier 1 for each of them. So the first round of 3 variants. Icelance, if I'm mostly purple Duke, blue Esmeralda, and Merilwen, a naked dungeon master, giggity, and BBEG, who should I waste Dragon Claws on? BBEG. It's not a waste. But you'd gear up BBEG because they're both a strong champion with a mop and they're a speed champion. I think I got one last question. Biv asked, how would you tweak Binwin to make him viable, or does he need a full rework? They only really do full reworks now, but I think really you're looking at you'd be looking at getting rid of that secondary DPS thing, the thing where he boosts his damage if other people kill. That's not a thing that you would want. You would want him boosting damage if the people adjacent to him aren't killing. That's how you want to ramp up damage. And you want to add multiplicatively stacking with a pre-stack multipliers, right? That would bring Binwin back into the OP age. And with his current kit, wouldn't make him the absolutely broken he was on launch. All right, folks, that was 27 questions. I'm out of time. Thank you for hanging out. If you'd like me to answer more questions for you, I am streaming in about an hour-ish over on my channel, Twitch TV. No, I don't. I just didn't see it over here. It didn't get grabbed. We were out of time, Rough Rider. Twitch TV / Gaarawarr, excuse me. Click on my name, toss me a follow. In about an hour, we'll be streaming Idle Champions on my mid-game account. But you can ask me all the kinds of questions over there. I'll be streaming all afternoon. The streams on this channel are done for the weekend. They'll be back on Tuesday. We'll start back up on Tuesday. But follow me over there for more content. I stream 5 days a week. Also, hit up my guides on the subreddit. If you're a new player, this is the one you want. It's my new player reference. It will literally walk you into the mid-game. It's got that much information. Yeah. Thanks for hanging out. Thank you to all of you for asking questions. Thank you to Gabe for grabbing the questions. I'm off to get a burrito. We're going out with 3 Cheers, the song for Dungeon Masters. Bye, everybody.
This one's for the Dungeon Masters, weaving stories each week anew. Scheduling can be a disaster, but they always pull us through. We raise our glass to you with heartfelt cheers, even though you brought us tears. You guided us through thick and thin for many days and many years. This one's for the NPCs, both prepared and on the fly. Denizens of the world we share, to both love and terrorize. Will our heroes live or will they die? We'll just have to improvise. Tell us to roll and give it a try, then it's time to throw the dice. Cheers for the Dungeon Masters, for giving us their all. 3 cheers for the story crafters. Please join us in our cause. kings and the gods. Fireballs and lightning bolts cast from staffs, wands and rods. You're the master of the rules, the champions of war. We raise our dice to you, 'cause you leave us wanting more. Three cheers for the dungeon masters, for giving us their all. Three cheers for the story crafters. Please join us in our call. Cheers for the dungeon masters, for giving us their all. Cheers for